All right, very well. Uh, it would be good if you have your computers with you, if you have now the compilers installed on your computer. If you don't have compilers, as I told you, you can use the website that we shared at the beginning of this course. I've started sharing my screen, and we will start. Again, we've covered this material, but it's a good idea to go through it very fast, just to refresh your memories and to remind you of the main things that we've discussed. All right, so now the function. As we said, we will focus on a few things like what the functions are and types of functions, overloading, templates, and of course, some examples about functions. So this example was the entrance to the function discussion, and we say usually we use function the next when we have redundant code. Okay, when we have code that we used most frequently in the program, so we can create a function so we can call it whenever we need to use this code. Can we write it only once and use it multiple times? Yes, we can. This is the main idea. Function will answer this question. So let's consider this example, this simple example. Consider the following code, which reads 3 integers and prints their sum. So in this case, if you remember, and I'm sure you remember, but I will explain to you again. Here we have a code that reads 3 variables and finds the sum of these variables. So if you can see, every time we write this cout, enter an integer, then we enter the integer, and again we write the same message, enter integer, and so on 3 times. So if we can take this part, all right, and create a function, we call it whatever the name is, read integer or whatever, and we can call it every time. Then in this case, we don't need to write the code more than once. We just call the function directly. So this is what we've done in the previous example or previous lecture. We've written this code and we showed you how to do it. And again, we will take some more examples and after going through these slides. So function allows the program to modularize program. What's the meaning of modularize? This is an example of a code. If you have some code or program that you've written, which is a bit long code, includes a lot of parts, then of course, now you are writing code or programs that contains or consist of 10 instructions, 12, 15, 20 instructions. In future, you may write code that may reach thousands of instructions. So without functions, and of course, when we talk about classes, also you will find the classes will help a lot. Without function, it's not easy to follow on and to control this huge amount of instruction. So to modularize this, we can take every related or every set of or each set of related code and convert them into a function, which is, in other words, it's a module. All right. Instead of when you get error in one function, then it will be very much easier to debug the error, to find what the problem is. Okay, so this is one of the most important thing, is to modularize local variables. Here we discussed this also, and I will discuss it again because it's so important. It seems that we scratched a lot last lecture. All right, I'll delete everything and start over again very fast, very quickly. All right, so talking about local variables, Now, if you remember when we earlier when we started the simple program, when you were writing, for example, integer main, okay, inside you write integer x and integer y, all right, and then you write the rest of the code. Now, in this case, x and y are known as local variables. What's the meaning of local variables? Local variables, as per the definition, not only in the function in which they are defined. All variables declared in a function definition are local variables. Now, suppose that I have here, I have the main function. By the way, just we will discuss it, but just to let you know, the function can be written before the main function or after the main function, all right? But basically we'll consider it before. And you have function 1, you have function 1 and function 2, all right? Then whatever you declare in this function, like if you declared integer x, and here if you declared, for example, double y, all right? In the main function or this x, when you write, for example, here in the main function, cout x, you will get error. Why error? Because x is declared in this function, so it is not only inside this function. It's unknown here and unknown here. Also, if you write cout y, you will get error because it's local variable. Here also, if you use, for example, cout x, also you will get error. But here, if you write cout x, it will be executed. It will be correct. All right. Here, error. The same thing is applied to y. If you write here cout y, you will get error. If you write cout y here, it will get error. But here you can use it. So this is the definition of the local variable. Now, how to define a variable that is known by all functions and everywhere? This is called global variable. And this can be done if you declared before the main and in other words, after this, after include IOStream and using namespace std. All right, here you can declare the global variables without any functions, without anything. You can write integer g. All right, that means g is global variable and you can use it anywhere. So wherever you write cout g, you will get there will be no error. It will be executed. All right, let's see what else we have here. Parameters. Local variable passed when the function is called that provides the function with outside information. So here, if you have, for example, you have function that find the square of an integer, all right, of a number, and you have another function, and let's consider it as the main function. By the way, the function can be called from the main function or from any other function. There's no difference. Then here, if you want to write the function, first of all, you need to think. I think, yeah, here we talk about it, but let's talk about it now. You need to think about what parameters should I pass here? What will I pass to that function to perform the operation? Square of, let's consider it as integer x. So that means I have to pass parameter from the main function to x. And at the same time, the function should return a value to in response to my request. So in this case, I should use return. Okay, here I'll define like integer r equals x times x because it's square. All right, and return r. What's the type of r? Since I'm multiplying two integers, then the result for sure is an integer. Then this is the type of the function. Okay, it will return R. Here, how we call it. For example, I'll define integer w equal square of 5. So how the process will be, or how will this process? First of all, I'll define integer w equals square. When I find, or when the compiler sees that you are calling square directly, it will go to the square function. Okay, but it will pass the 5 argument to x. So in this case, x equals to 5. And start executing. R equal 5 times 5, that means 25. R equals to 25, then R equals 25. It will send back R to the main function and give it to W. So W now is equal to 25. All right. If you call it again, for example, integer A equal square of 6. Now it will call it again. It will pass 6 to the function and it will calculate the multiplication and return to 36. So A is equal to 36. Whenever you need to use it, and you can use it any number of times, and always you can use the function by calling it and passing the argument. All right. So now create a customized function to take the data, perform operation, and return the result. Although not always this is not always needed, and also return the result. When we will discuss the types of functions, you will find that there are 4 types of functions. Some of them don't take the data. Some of them don't return result, but the perform operation is very important. The function should perform an operation. All right. So this is anywhere you have to in the systems and the IT systems, you need to send data, do the processing, and get the result. So from format for function definition, this format is very important. How? First, when I give you a question or you face any problem in real life that you want to create a function or to write a function to it, you have to think of 3 things. All right. The first thing, or actually there are 4, one of them is not that important. Okay. First, I will think of giving a name to the function. Let's take an example. Write a function that returns the maximum of 2 numbers. See, you need to think about it from, although it's very easy and very simple example, but you need to think about it from 3 perspectives, or actually there are 4. The first one is the name of the function, which is also very important, but it's not crucial. So first of all, or let's put it 4. All right. 1, name of the function. Of course, you can call the function any name. You can call it ABC, you can call it XYZ, you can call it whatever you want, but usually we prefer to use meaningful name. Like now I'm talking about maximum. So I think the best idea is to call the function as max. And since 2 numbers, I would prefer also to put 2. So max 2. If X of the students or of the developers want to call it Ahmed, it's all right. I don't mind. But how will you know that Ahmed will find 2 the maximum number between two numbers, or you can call it ABC. How will you know that ABC can do this? So that's why it's better to select a meaningful name. All right, so this is the first one. Second, what argument should I pass to the function and what are the types of the arguments? See, actually here, two numbers. Numbers in general, usually I don't give it in general, let's say integers. All right, two integers, that means I need to pass two integers. I will write integer x, comma, integer y. If you think like this, all right, then no function will be difficult to be solved. All right, two, then here, arguments or parameters. Or parameters. Three, the process inside or the processing or the operations inside the function. Now here, of course, I will write if x greater than y, return x, else return y. We'll discuss this later. All right. So the process. Or the operations is better. Still, we have the fourth thing. What will the function return? Okay, so let's think about the returned value, which is, in other words, the function type. Now, I pass two arguments, two integers, and I will return integer, right? I'll get integer. So the function type should be integer. All right. So these are the four things that you want to consider and discuss between you and yourself before start writing the function. Okay. For example, this, if you can see square, integer, the type of the function, the name of the function, the parameters, and the process. So in every function, you need to think of these four things. Okay. Now, getting back to our previous example, which is about reading an integer. If I move the part that we discussed, we said C out enter an integer and C in X and return X. So I declare the function. If you can see here, I don't have parameters. Here, no parameters. Why? Because I don't need to pass any parameters to the function. The function will read an integer and send it back to me. All right, or to the main function. So here I can call it x equal read integer, y equal read integer, and z equal read integer, and r equal x plus y plus z, and that's it. So instead of repeating the same code here again and again, we used a function, okay, which is very clear that it reads an integer. Of course, the type and why we didn't pass arguments here or parameters, and why we have return here, why we have type, this is what we will know in the next discussion, which we are going to talk about types of functions. All right. First, before going to type of functions, now let me just explain to you the part that I told you, that you can write the function before or or after the main function. For me, I would recommend to write it all, write all the function before, because you don't need to declare it here. So if you write it before, you can use it directly. Of course, here let's declare, for example, integer read int. Okay, and the function, you can call it in the main function directly. But if you declare it after, let's say if we want to declare a function like print integer and do something, you have to declare it first before the main function. Okay, and this is what is known as the prototype. Okay, so function prototype, function name, parameters, and return type. Type of information the function passes back to the caller. All right, the default is integer. Void, if the function doesn't return any value, we will give it a type of void. For example, here, see, this is the declaration. You may ask why I don't have X here, Y, or Z, because this is just a prototype. If I'm going to, for example, to write, let's say I have integer main, okay, and here in the main I can, for example, write integer a equal maximum of 5, 6, and 7. All right, and here I can write after the main function. If I write here like integer maximum of integer x, integer y, and integer z, and write the function here, then I'll get error because I have to declare. I'll show it to you practically. I have to declare it here. All right, to write this one before the main function. All right. Okay. Types of functions. As I told you, we have mainly four types of functions. The first one does not take argument and does not return value. That means a function, when you call it, it does something outside the caller or the main function. Here is the main function. When I call it, okay, I don't pass any argument. Of course, the call is here. Here, I'm calling the function. I don't pass any arguments, and I don't get any returned values. So what will this function do? For example, printing a message, or reading a number and print it to the screen. So dealing with keyboards and monitor screen, that means I don't pass any argument and I don't get any feedback. The second one takes argument and does not return values. That means I'll pass argument to it and I don't get any values. By the way, in the next slide, the details are there. The third part does not take argument and return values. The last one, which is the most commonly type, which takes argument and return values. Now see, this is the first type of the function. This function does not take any arguments and does not return any value when it's called. So this is the caller, okay, which might be the main function or something. Arguments, usually we pass argument and return value. If you can see here, we have X here and we have X here, but we can call it. All right. Type 2. This function, let's see if we have examples. Yeah, these are the examples. So let's explain them and then we'll solve the examples. This type of function, as you can see, pass arguments to the function and doesn't get, or the function doesn't return any value. All right. The third type doesn't pass any argument here. No arguments are passed, but the function returns value. All right. The fourth one is pass argument and return and get value. Now let's solve this example. This is of type 1. Why? Write a function that prints the message welcome to C++ when it's called. So suppose that you have all right. Suppose that you have a function that when you call it, it just writes welcome to C++. So I have this main function. This is the main, and this is the called function. All right. When I call it, it doesn't ask me about any argument and doesn't return any argument. It will go to the screen, all right, and print welcome to C++. So no argument will be passed and no return value will be taken. Let's write it. Okay. I think it's too large. All right. So this is an let me just remove this. All right. This is the compiler that we are going to use. Of course, again, the first thing is to include IO stream, right, and then using namespace std. Right now, see, I'll write the function before and after. Here I will write the main function, integer main. All right, and here I will call the function. Let's write the function now. What do you want to call the function? Let's say welcome or welcome function or whatever. So the first is say welcome. All right. Now this is the first part. What argument should I pass? Nothing, because when I call it, when I will call it, it will just print a message. All right. What values will this function return? Nothing also. In this case, I have to make it void. All right, here, cout, welcome to C++, and \n or end line, whatever. All right, now if I execute it, nothing will happen, of course, because till now I didn't call the function. Here I have error. Yes, I need to put semicolon. All right, then I'll execute it. All right, so build, then I run it. Okay, press any key to continue. So nothing happened. I'm sure you can see it, right? I don't know if we can enlarge it. Okay, so nothing happened because we didn't call the function. Now let's try calling the function. How to call it? Since it's of type void, then you don't need to equate it to a variable. All right, so here only I'll call it. All right, say welcome. What argument should I pass? Nothing. That's it. So now, while when I will execute this, it will. Let me just take this and explain to you. All right. So usually, as we said in the previous lectures, the compiler first, when execute any program, will search for what? Will search for the main function. So the compiler will come to the main function and start executing. When it reaches say welcome, then this means I'm calling the function say welcome. It will check that no arguments are needed and no return values. Then it will execute it. This will be cout welcome to C++, and that's it. And execution is done. All right. So let's execute it and see. All right. How to remove this? Okay. So from here, I will compile it. I don't know how to remove this. Why is it? Okay. All right. So I'll compile it here. Terminal. Okay. build finished successfully. Then I run it, start debugging using Windows, and all right. So this is the message that we got. Welcome to C++, and press any key to continue. Of course, we didn't put this press any key to continue. This is the compiler added usually to keep the screen on. Otherwise, it will be just flicking. So here, welcome to C++. Now, if I ask you what argument we have passed, nothing. What returned value we've got, also nothing. So this function is of type 1, which doesn't take any arguments and doesn't return any value. And this is the answer of the question. All right, so this is the answer of the first example, or first question. I'll share this with you after we finish the lecture. Now let's see the second example. Write a function that receives an integer from the main function and print it to the screen. I want you now to think with me. Of course, a print, let's call it print. The function name is a print of, but I didn't close, I didn't complete this. Now write a function that receives. When you hear the word or read the word receives, that means there should be some arguments, some parameters passed to this function. Okay, receives means gets, all right, and print them to the screen. Also, they will print them to the screen. They will not return anything. So the type of the function is void. All right, and print. What to print? Receives an integer. That means I should have integer x. Here, see out the integer is x. That's it. End line. Okay. This is the function, and when you call it, you have to pass the argument. So let's write it and see how to. Okay. We'll call it. We call the function or give it a name like print. Print integer. All right. This is the name. It has meaning. Now again, it receives an integer. That means I need to pass an integer to it. What will it return? To return nothing. So the type should be void. Okay. Here I will write see out. Now the functionality of this function. Integer is x in the L, and that's it. Okay, so now the function is ready. Now how to call it? print of. See, now it asks for parameters. So I'll pass, for example, 8. Okay, but also there's no equal. I didn't write, for example, C equal. This is error. Why? Because no return value. We don't have any return. It's of type void. Okay, so let's execute it. Yeah, successfully, and we run it. Okay, so the integer is 8. Also, let's take it and explain what's happening. Okay, now here, as we said, the functionality of the function is to receive an integer and print it to the screen. All right, so here when I called it, I passed 8. So 8 comes to become x, or x will take the value of 8. And of course, no returned value. Here, there will be no returned value. So it's void. That's why I didn't use x equal or something here, no equality, because it will not return any value to me. or to the main function, then it will take it, print the integer is x, which is equals to 8, and that's it. Now, it's good idea. Now, if I show you, if I define the function after or before, let me just share it with you, and then I'll show you how to or what will happen if we define the function after the main function. All right, so this is the answer. Okay, now let's try to define the function after the main function. I remove this, okay, and put it after the main function. I don't know if it will be executed or there will be problem because maybe they update this annoying thing. So let's see. Yeah, see, build finished with errors. Let's see what the errors are. Print of 8 is unknown. All right. How to solve this? Of course, as I told you, you have two options, either to declare or to define the function before the main function, which is I highly recommend you to do it. All right. Or to define it after this. In this case, you have to declare the function first. So here I'll declare a function without the name of the variable, just like this. Okay. So in this case, it should run. Okay, so void print of integer. Then here is the definition. So let's try to start it. Yeah, see, built finished successfully. All right, then you can run it. Okay, so this is the other way. Also, I'll share it with you just to remind you of the way of writing the functions. So here also another solution. So this is the first solution. Okay, and this is the second solution. Okay, here I will add first solution, and here a second solution. All right, let's see the next question. Write a function that reads an integer from the user and return it to the main function or to the caller. All right, this is the opposite. Now what this function will do? First, let's see, read an integer. So I'll call it RD int. You can give it any other name. Let's think of the rest of the things. What argument will it take from the caller or from the main function? Nothing. Okay, I don't want to write x because you will understand like x. So no arguments. It will be blank because it will read an integer and send it back to me. But the word send it integer from user and return or send it back to the main function. That means it will read an integer. So I will write like cout enter integer cn. Of course, I have to declare x, for example, integer x, cnx, and return x. All right. In this case, of course, as I told you, it will return x. What's the type of x? Integer. Then the function type should be integer. So again, I will write it or write this program. All right, so here I will write RDINT and read integer of, we don't need any arguments, but the type will be return. All right, the return type will be integer. So I will write it like here. Out, enter an integer, semicolon, cn. I didn't declare any variable here, so I'll define integer x, for example. So cnx and return x. Right? That's it. This is the function. Now here, when I call it in the main function, I have to use equal to. So I'll define integer a equals. What's the name of the function here? RDINT, right? So RDINT of no arguments. Okay, then this will call the read integer. The read integer will be executed, will read the value of x and return it to the main function, and I can print it now. So print, print, cout a and endl. All right, let's execute it. All right, so successfully. Start debugging. Enter integer. If you can see here, enter integer 8, for example. Then the main function just printed 8. Also, I'll share this with you, and I want now to use both functions together. Let's see how to do this. All right, so this is the program. Of course, by the way, you can copy them and paste them in the compiler, and they will be executed. So I want you to try them. Now, before going to the fourth example, I want to merge these two examples or two examples together. Yes. So if you can see here, I'll be having two functions. All right. The first function is integer read integer, and the second one is the one we've written before. All right. Okay, so we have RDINT and print int. So I can use it now. Integer a equal rnd, and of course here I can call print ind. print of a. So instead of using cin and cout, you can use your own functions or the functions that you've already defined. Now I can execute them. All right, so enter an integer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, this is the first function. Requested the integer, and we passed it to the main function. Then the second function printed the integer. All right. So this is if you have more than one function in the same program. Finally, let's see the last question, in which write a function that takes two numbers and return the sum of the two numbers. Now it's this type is most commonly used. I'll call it sum. I don't want to use this one. All right, I'll call it sum. Okay. Takes two numbers. Of course, in this case also integer. We'll consider them as integer. So integer x and integer y. All right. I return the sum. That means here, if you define integer s, okay, and s equal x plus y, and return s. Okay, the returned value is s, which is integer, then the type of the function should be integer. All right. Okay, let's write this function, and it'll be the last thing for today. So okay, you know, I'll keep these ones. I'll create a new one, or let me write it somewhere else, or I can get them back. Okay, so here what we have sum of integer x, integer y, and the returned value is integer as well. So here I will write the value, the returned value is integer. Then I'll open the block and write here return x plus y. You can do it like this for short notation. All right, so here I can write integer a equals sum of, give any number like 3 and 6. All right, semicolon, and print, C out, the sum is, and then give it A and ENDL, and that's it. Let's execute it. Terminal. All right. Successfully, then I can run it. Very well. So what I got here is the sum is 9. Now I want to merge. I'll share this with you first. Okay, let me just share this answer. Now, if you notice that I have 3 functions now, one of them is reading, one of them is printing, and the third one is to find the sum. Can I use them all together? Yes, this is just something extra. I want you to try, and I will put it here in a blank slide. Okay. I want you to just execute them and use them. So here I will move these things to the top. I have here function, I have another function here. So here, if you can see, I have the first function, which is to find the sum, and the second function to read integer, and the third function is to print integer. So what I'll do here, find integer a equal rdint to read integer, all right? Integer b equals rdint, and I'll find the sum of the two numbers. Okay, integer r equal sum of a comma b. Okay, and I want to print them. Then print of r. See, you can now execute, do whatever you want, only using the function. So I'll run it. All right, and now we start debugging. Windows. Okay, if you can see, the first call for the first function to read an integer, I'll give it 5. The second call to read another integer, 8. Now the integer is 13, because it was the sum was found and the result is printed. Okay. Also, I'll share this with you. I want you to implement it and execute it in your computers. Okay. Just to avoid any confusion, I will write here a comment. The three functions together. All right. Very well. I'll stop screen recording now, or recording now. Then I'll stop screen sharing. If you have any questions, although I'm sorry I took some of your time, but it's very important.